Welcome to another Saturday night and taking it to the nub. I'm your host, Boston Jimmie, and tonight's show is going to be spectacular because I have as my guest today Dan Thompson from Micallef Cigars. And if you don't know Dan, you're going to know more about Dan. And if you know about Dan, you might learn some things today that you didn't know. And because we're not just diving into cigars and Micallef, we're going to be talking about Dan Thompson, the man himself, and what he's done in his life. So let me bring in Dan right now.
Hey, how are you?
Thompson, how are you today?
Man, I'm fantastic. Thank you for getting us set up to talk tonight.
Absolutely. Now, before we get started, I want to make sure I got my facts straight. You've been with Micallef and Al since the start of the company, or did you come in late? Because you're president now since like 2019, but you were there in the beginning, if I remember.
Yeah, I wasn't active in the company. I was on the board with Al's company. And so I was there when we first met the Gomez Sanchez family. And then Al decided to take kind of this passion around cigars and turn it into a full-blown business.
Okay. And that was around 2016 or so when he started the process. And I think I met him, I think it was 2016 or 17 at the IPCPCR.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It was 2017 was the first IPCPR, now called the PCA trade show, where Micallef introduced itself for the first time. And Al and the team went out to Las Vegas and had a show. We had quite a fanfare with the booth that year because we were doing a lot of videos and interviews, as you remember. And that was the launch of the company. And we didn't have the bold brands that we have now. We just had the legacy line like you're smoking tonight. And that's when the locomotive started moving down the tracks.
And you're right. And I am smoking the Experiencia, which is one of your core original lines. Beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, as I told you, when you held up that cigar band, it's not only an Experiencia, it's one from almost the origination of the company. So I think you're in for a treat tonight. Some of those are still out in the wild.
And I looped one in, and I'm actually pairing with my son, my PhD son. He loves to make wine, and he actually has made a batch of mead, which is got some rose that he's used in it, rose water or something, along with the honey. And it's got this beautiful sweetness and floral note in it. It's pairing very well with this.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm so glad that you're able to incorporate something that we built, something your son built. It's beautiful.
What are you smoking tonight?
So I am enjoying the Micallef Medallion. And the one that I have with me has a new set of bands that we've shown the ambassador. We moved to this blue band for the Micallef A, which was the cigar that was made with the ambassadors, and they named it. And we like the band so much as a primary, we're moving all the legacy line to have that same master blue band, and then they'll be dressed with a secondary band that has a color specific to each blend. So once you find something you like in the store, you'll be able to go to that cigar. The medallions that are dressed this way will be hitting the shelves maybe at the end of this year, first of next year.
Okay, very good. Now, you in the beginning, Micallef is a brand, and the history. We don't need to get into the deep history because a lot of people have seen Dan, the man, talk about it. All right, but going back to the Gomez family, 134-year total tradition of cigar making, and Al being a businessman himself and loved cigars, embraced this and wanted to get it out there. When you made that splash back in 2017, One of the things I would note to people is that the cigars had a higher price tag on them.
Sure, that's one of the things I was going to talk about.
Okay.
Yeah, when you launch a company, it's always fun to look back 4 or 5 years later, and you're able to quickly call out the mistakes that you made, especially when you step into a new industry. The Micallef family, primary company is in the manufacturing silicone industry, restaurants, ranching, real estate. The consumer goods and a luxury good like premium cigars was new to the Micallef family. We were all consumers of the product, but that's very different when you own the company and you're accountable to the retailers and the consumers. And as the products were launched initially, there were a couple mistakes that were made. The positive thing is we've overcome those over the last 2 years. And the price was, I don't know, maybe $4 a stick higher than it should have been at the time. And when you launch something new, you're gauging a lot of different pieces. And about a year into the business, there was a price reduction to the price levels that you see today. And a second line of cigars was created called the Bold line, which was more of an everyday smoke so that people could move up and down the Micallef portfolio from $4.50 to $42, in that lowest value cigar, lowest priced value cigar. We've got the Tosadoras, which is made in our factory also. Very, very popular cigar. And we wanted to be able to have something to fill that gap. So that's where we did the Bold line. So now we have 15 blends that range from $4.50 up to $42. And we continue to get more and more in tune with pricing every year. There won't be a reduction like happened at the end of the first year, but what we've been able to do is we scale our business, we bring our manufacturing costs down, and it's allowing us to keep our prices the same. As I look out into the industry and look at the cost of tobacco and bands and boxes and all the components, we're definitely seeing as manufacturers increases in those components. And I expect that cigar prices will rise as a result of that price increases that we're paying on the component and the tobacco side. And we think at Micallef that we have it nailed where we're not going to have to adjust prices on the portfolio next year. 2 years out, I can't really tell, but I just got my bill for bands, my pricing for next year. And, certain bands went up 50% in cost.
Wow.
And that's not, these guys, they have real costs behind them too, the paper and the inks. So I'm not faulting anybody for that, but it's happening. And it's unfortunately one of those things that eventually gets passed through to the person who consumes the product at the end.
Of course it does. Now, when you came in, did you know Al?
Yeah, I've known Al for about 20 years, maybe 24 now. When I moved to Fort Worth, I originally was working for Microsoft, and Al had a giant restaurant downtown Fort Worth, which he still has, called the Riata. We have a cigar named after the restaurant, as a matter of fact. And Al was somewhat, of a more mature, seasoned executive, and I always like to have mentors in my life. And so Al was one of those guys that would get together, maybe every couple months, have a cigar, talk about what was going on. And I've always learned from him because he's a very creative and innovative entrepreneur. And, when you're in the corporate world, you get really good at running businesses that are existing. You're not as good at pulling something out of the ground from scratch. And so having somebody like Al Micallef in your life to help mentor, is a real blessing.
And you have a background, you have a bachelor's in chemistry.
Yes, sir.
And you have an executive MBA. You were active, like you said, from Microsoft. How did the chemistry degree translate into the cigar business, if at all? Process, and I would imagine there's
a lot of analogies to be made. One of the great things about getting a degree in any basic science, physics, chemistry, you have a set of marketable skills in that domain directly. I chose not to follow that career path, but you're trained to deal with reality. And, it's a physical reality. So you're very good at finding the essence of something. And once you build that with the logic that goes next and the process, you begin to really think deeply about how you manage and scale things. And so for me, today with the cigar industry, it's also true in the manufacturing industry. You know, when you're building something that's got physical components to it, you know, a chemistry degree just helps you be really good and understand materials. So my time, I am not an expert in blending. I am not an expert in fermenting, but I understand those processes. I understand what you can do to accelerate them. I understand how it can damage the plant if you get too aggressive. You know, there's a lot of nuances, and the people who build cigars for us, they're masters of their craft. They've done it for generations. We build upon their knowledge, but my ability and the team around me that's helped me come up to speed has been fantastic, so that we can make decisions from a real reality-based point of view in the world. And so I think that's the greatest thing a chemistry or physics degree or biology degree gives you. You're very good at dealing with facts that there's no fantasy to them. You know, the seed's got to go on the ground at the beginning of the year, and when it's harvested, you know, it's a long process with tobacco. And you know, I think that your audience is probably really wise about all the hands that touch tobacco during the process. Yeah. You know, it's a sharp group of people, but it's amazing how much time is involved in producing these products that we're enjoying tonight.
I just had that conversation when I bought this cigar today. There was a young man, he's probably in his 30s, that came into the lounge and just started a conversation with him. And I had mentioned the 300 hands story, right? And he looked at me and I said, "Oh, you don't know about that. Let me explain it to you." And I walked him through seed to palate and explaining all the little different process elements involved. And he was like, "I never knew that." So now he says, now that I'm smoking this, whatever cigar he was smoking, right? And any other one, he says, I have a whole new appreciation for what I've got in my hand, because this is not just something that somebody took some tobacco, threw it in a machine and produced it.
No,
there is a lot of process involved. And a lot of it is art. A lot of it is craft. A lot of it is science. It ties it all together. And he was glowing with information when he left.
Yeah, you know, it's so amazing. Yeah, it's a product that when we get it in our hand, you know, in our case at Micallef Cigars, you know, that tobacco from the time that it comes out of the field to it gets to us, so that we begin fermenting it and processing it. Water is the only ingredient that goes into this thing. You know, it's different stages. And when you have the big pallons that are there that look like they're pallets of tobacco leaves, like very large conference tables for people who haven't seen them. They're about 3 feet tall.
Big compost piles.
They're giant compost pile where the heat of the plant fermenting is what drives the transformation of the tobacco. It's absolutely amazing.
Now you also, so what was real interesting in your biography, really interesting, is you eventually were appointed president of Micallef Cigars in around October of 2019.
Yeah, you know.
Also, hold on, you were also joined up with Jmac Industries, which is silicone fabrication innovation, which I imagine has to have a connection to Al also.
Yeah, that's Al's primary company that provided him the resources and the success to be able to do all the other things that he's done in his life. What's not written out publicly that occurred is I had retired from Microsoft. I looked at a biotech company to buy down in Mexico, and that didn't work out, and was just kind of exploring a few different options. And the cigar company needed some leadership attention. You know, it's nobody's fault, but it was kind of 18 months, 2 years in. We didn't have a dedicated sales team, and it just really needed some focus. And I told Al, I go, why don't I just start coming out 1 or 2 days a week? I go, really, it's fun. It's what I enjoy doing. About 3 months of that, you know, 2 days went to 3 days to 4 days. Al and I went to IPCPR or PCA in 2000, I guess, 19 or 2000. And he finally said, he goes, "What do you think about running the cigar company?" And I said, "Al, I mean, that's great, but to be honest, I run much bigger things, and I've got my own companies that I'm working on. What else do you have?" And Jmac has been this great company that produces products that go into other manufactured products. For example, we did the freezer gaskets around all the COVID vaccines. They all go in super low temperature freezers, and we built all those during COVID.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
So it was a different muscle for me to develop because, the software world and manufacturing world are kind of different. But a lot of the principles are the same in the process.
Still have a bill of materials.
Yeah, you've got a bill of materials. So instead of stepping into Micallef day one and saying, "I'm the new president," rather, I wanted to understand the company, and I wanted to understand Jmac before it was announced, so that I would have some time to formulate some concepts and directions that would be fitting for the business. And as a trend, I brought Andy Yaffe, who's our national sales director. I promoted him, but it was a period of time before we announced that, because we really want to get people into positions and up and running before we share to the whole world that's going to be the person responsible for it.
Now, how do you split your time? You're still working, obviously, both sides of these companies. How do you split your time between Jmac and Mcalliff? And is there an overlap? Is it the same office?
It's completely integrated. They're across a parking lot from each other. And so I literally spend every day walking back and forth between the buildings. I find that the cigar company, even though it's a much tinier company, takes more of my time because it's a young company. And we don't have a complete staff to be able to do everything. So, I end up kind of working like a startup executive in one company, and the other one, which is mature, we've got a great team over there. And so I check on it, a couple times during the week, but depending on the sales calls or manufacturing issues that we're encountering, I just split my time between the two companies.
Okay.
And it's funny, we brought Amanda Micallef. That's Al's daughter. She was out in Hollywood making movies and running social media. And we convinced her to move back to Texas. And she was going to lead the marketing in cigars and the marketing in Jmac. And when I saw the kind of talent she had, I put her in charge of sales and marketing in Jmac and marketing in the cigar business. So there's two of us that share time back and forth between the companies every day.
Okay. Well, that takes some of the load off each other. So that's
yeah, no, it's great to have a teammate that does that. And, Andy Yaffe being completely focused in the sales of Micallef, that needs to be somebody focused on that. So he's out with customers every day, working with the other sales execs around the country. That's really needs to be focused. But at my level, you're solving different kinds of problems, legal strategies, banking, cash, all the other things that nobody ever talks about, but that are important for a business to be successful.
So we have no artificial intelligence put into the cigar business yet, have we?
Well, I don't know. I have written a dashboard that we run Micallef Cigars from that manages our inventory and our sales. And inside of that, we use some predictive algorithms to help our salespeople have a better awareness of what's happened at their shops, so that they can prioritize their time in a very responsible way. And then on the inventory side, you hear about back orders in the cigar industry, right? They're everywhere. Well, I got to tell you, it's a effing hard business to manage because of the lead time of the product. And so we have algorithms that are running every month now to help us better understand the rate at which products are selling, that velocity. And we look at the inventory levels, and then we look at the production reports, and we can make adjustments that way. And we're far from perfect, but boy, do I feel bad for companies that don't have that kind of intelligence to help them run their business.
Well, they're managing it the best way that they know how. And
absolutely. And it's really hard with the multi-year lead time, and one of the things that we kind of suffer and we're getting better at is when you bring a new cigar to the market, how many do you manufacture initially? How fast
Sure.
do you have them in the pipeline behind them? As we're building confidence with our retailers, we're seeing that, what we would have launched 18 months ago will be at 4x that this year when we do launches in 21. So, I'm very thankful that we have data to help us make decisions, but we're still learning a lot. And I feel for the retailers and the other manufacturers in the industry who do it the hard, old-fashioned way. They really got to stay up at night and watch that portfolio.
Now, do you work with your retailers with that data? You show them that data and explain what's going on?
It's set up so that, there's a very broad range of retailers in the cigar industry. There's people who are very sophisticated operators. You might think of Abe at Smoke Inn or Garofalo up at Two Guys. They run really amazing operations. And then it ranges across, and we're only in brick and mortars. And we love it because they're all family-owned businesses. And it ranges to, at the other end, people who may be retired and it's their second business. And it's as much a hobby business as it is a real operation. And so they have different appetites for information. So the way that we've made the decision, we want to work with all of our brick and mortars, and we want to tailor it to their needs. There's a lot of things that we can do, but some things fit different scale operations. And so that sales reporting and providing that information, we're happy to provide it to them. We have a screen that the sellers can print out and just take with them or can show them online, because we also want people to be able to know that we're looking at trends. One decision that we made, we have a cigar called the Riata. It's a lighter cigar. Most of our cigars are medium plus. Riata's lighter. And as we hired Stephen Poirier in the Northeast to sell, we saw more demand in the Northeast than any other region. And I think it's a regional taste. I don't know that for a fact. I just know the fact is that for some reason those took off. It maybe is emphasis of the product, but that's the type of information that we would share back across to other retailers in that region and say, we've got really strong strength with these 6 or 7 blends, but for whatever reason, customers in your area are moving towards this cigar. So we love sharing that kind of information with people.
It's good. Let me take a quick short break here. They're going to give a shout out to the sponsors of the show. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about what you've done transforming Micallef and dig a little bit into the Ambassador program. So today's show is brought to you by La Jolla Del Chan. La Jolla Del Chan is a dream come true for husband and wife, Gabby Elchan and Liz. They want all hands that work the tobacco leaf in their home country of Puerto Rico to have the same opportunity to expose their products. They call it La Jolla Del Chan because they cultivate part of their product, and at some point they want to be able to supply the world with their native Puerto Rican tobacco leaf. The pride that Gabby and Liz feel is the same pride of all those who work the tobacco leaf, and for this, they deserve a portal that represents them. They want to thank everyone for supporting their country. They say, we will resist. You can follow La Jolla Del Chan at lajolladelchan.com and on Elchan Cigars on Instagram and Facebook. Today's show is also brought to you by Platinum Nova Cigars. Platinum Nova is a family-owned and operated premium cigar company. Only the highest vintage tobacco and the most skilled hand workmanship go into the making of each Platinum Nova cigar, resulting in a timeless blend of art and craftsmanship. The Nova brand and the family's work are a tribute and an honor to their grandfather, to always remember him and his infinite passion for the finest cigars. Their love for cigars started with their grandfather, a dedicated master blender and entrepreneur in the cigar industry. So next time you're looking for an exquisite cigar experience, pick up a Platinum Nova. You can check them out at www.novacigar.com and on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And while they're all advertising, you can go to their site and use the code BostonJimmie15 and you get 15% off your order. So check out Platinum Nova. And lastly, today's show is brought to you by the Cigar Clowns. The Cigar Clowns is a Facebook group that's on a journey to find the perfect cigar. They hunt through various factories in the world, looking in the aging rooms of things that haven't been sent, haven't been purchased. And if you're lucky enough to get your hands on one of their limited releases, you know what's up. If you haven't had one, stay tuned to their page, because when they do a drop, you want to get on it fast because they sell out quickly. They're one, they're in, they're out. Good conversation, great people, and smoking cigars. So they'd like to welcome all brothers and sisters of the Leaf to follow their journey and share the same love as they do for cigars. I'd like to thank my sponsors, for without them, the show's always a little bit harder to do. Let's get back to Dan. So you come in, you're with the company, kind of watching over, seeing what's happening. You become president. We get into this pandemic world, and you guys did something that was truly transformative in this business. You embraced one, like you said, you announced you're only selling to brick and mortar. You pull away from all the online stuff. You say, no, we're doing brick and mortar only. They're your lifeblood. But the other part of that is the lungs of the whole operation seems to be the consumer. And your consumer engagement was spot on with the Micallef Ambassador program, which you haven't done this. You just got to go to their site, sign up, you get this cool certificate that says you're a member. You'll get a coin. Okay. Each coin is numbered. I believe I am number 6328. So 6,000. When I got this early in the year, last year was 28. You probably have more than that now. Talk about this program. Why this is so important for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna help you with just a couple things. So our numbers range from about 6,000 to 10,000 right now in terms of those coins. They've been distributed to sales execs in their regions, so they're not given out in order. So we're about 6,500, 6,600 people strong. About half of those convert into our Facebook group, which is really the premier tool for us to connect with ambassadors. Looking back, we launched the ambassador program before COVID, and it was a recognition where Al and I came at it from two different directions and realized what we wanted to accomplish. You know, Al's mindset was, we can't be in every store every day. We knew that we were going to be in brick and mortars only. And we knew that there's always people who influence other people in a store, and we wanted to have connection with them. That was a large part of Al's thinking. Then my perspective on the same opportunity was, you know, I don't know how to run a business unless I'm connected to the end consumer. You know, we kind of function in a dual mandate where we sell to retailers and we engage with consumers. And that's an important distinction, because we don't sell direct to anybody. We only sell through the retailers, but we want to engage consumers directly. And every opportunity I've ever had to create a community of some sort online, we've done that before. And so Al and I both recognized the need to have connection to that end consumer. And we wanted to be able to do it in a way that really recognized and honored the people who enjoyed our cigars and would do the most powerful thing in the world, introduce them to a friend, for us to be able to grow our business. And it's really funny. I hear about events every night that we have an event. I hear about it from an ambassador before I hear about it from the seller. Hey, these three things went great. This kind of thing sucked, you know, but you're inundated with feedback from this 6,500 people. And some people aren't very active. They just like the information. Other people are very active in our community. And it's given us a place, and this is before COVID had happened, for us to collaborate with the ambassadors on decisions like future products. We were able to talk about different markets. You know, they're kind of like an external board of directors. And every week when we get together in our conference room, Wednesday is executive meeting day. And I have a large TV at the end of my conference room. And part of the day is we go to Facebook and we look at feedback from ambassadors that's been pinned, and there's lots of positive. And if there's something that wasn't right or was wrong or misunderstood, we go through that information. And so you're always harvesting as much information as you can, but there's a contract that occurs when you do that with a group of people. We have to have a conversation. We're not there just to broadcast like a radio station. It means that every day there's significant time, half an hour to 2 hours, that I'm in social media engaging with people. And, the expectation is that the team will do it. So when COVID happened, we realized that the sellers were not able to go anywhere. So their only job was to build muscle and learn how to connect with customers online. And that's what you saw, was that time where we had multiple shows that were running a week, sometimes a day. We were doing multiple shows. And the magic of it is Andy's from the cigar industry and his team. Amanda's from the movie industry and Instagram. I'm from Microsoft, where we had large online communities. And together we make a really good team because we have diverse points of view, but we like to move fast. We accept that we'll make mistakes. We'll correct them as quick as we can, but we want to engage in some unconventional ways. And thus the ambassador community has grown. The ambassadors host their own shows now. They have
I was going to say that they've really taken on.
That's right.
The ambassadors are truly like behind the brand and have really taken it on for their shows, like you said. And they've even announced, like, I guess we just changed I don't know, is it the key ambassador?
We'll be having the vote for the ambassador of the year in about, 45 days. And that's turned into a pretty big function because that's the person that controls the scheduling for their shows. And,
Right.
Bill White up in New York has done his standard that he set is so amazing.
He's great.
And, it's really funny. Sometimes there's a little tension inside our own team. They're like, Dan, the ambassadors just did this. We didn't know about it. I'm like, guys, that's okay. We're exploring new ground together. But it's a lot of fun. And, we had an unfortunate thing this year where we had a dispute that kind of spilled out into the public with Privada Cigars. And in that case, Privada had customers and we had customers that overlapped. But I really appreciate the ambassador community because we had a way to communicate to a lot of people and say, hey, I want you to understand the perspective, why that event happened, why we protect our brand, because if brick and mortars invest in it, that's their hard-earned dollars that they're building their business on. We can't have a free ride for somebody. And it's unfortunate that spilled out in the public, but we were able to communicate and discuss that. And, I can't imagine being a company and not having that relationship with your consumers. Now they're really our friends.
Oh, yeah. Let's be real. And this is a very small industry.
Oh, absolutely.
And, one wrong word and everybody's talking about it, that the drama just grows overnight in this industry. But doing good things, the same thing happens. People start hearing about it. Like, wow, I like the way this company's operating. I like this. I like what the fans that are coming out and supporting it. So it can go either way. And like you said, you experience that.
Yeah, and
one piece but you got a hold of it. You're an executive for one of the largest companies in the world, and that's not the first time you came across a glitch you had to deal with.
That particular case, it's unfortunate. You like to solve disagreements with other businesses privately, and in that particular case, we weren't making progress, and so we were ready to move to legal ramification, and so it spilled out in the public. But it was important that the other retailers that buy from us know that we're freaking serious about protecting that brand and those retail price points that have been set. That's the reason that we left Cigar International 9 months earlier. Cigar International, they had agreements with us, but they wouldn't follow the agreement, which was crazy. And it was hurting our other part of our business. And so that's how we made a decision. We weren't going to be lukewarm. We were going to be serious, and we were going to support either online everything or brick and mortars. And that was just a trivial decision because we know that we're family-owned business, and that's who we like to do business with. And that's the heart of the smoking community. If the lounges didn't exist, our rights would be eroded away. We wouldn't have a place to smoke, and cigar industry would turn into a pile of ashes if it was just dependent on the online business. So that's why all of our investment. The other thing that you don't see, Jimmie, is we also stopped our advertising in some major publications. Because as we focused our business strategy, we realized that every dollar we spend in marketing, we want that investment to go back into the brick and mortars. And that passport that you showed earlier, that's a way for a consumer to learn our blends and to try our cigars. They get put into a drawing once they've completed it. And then if their name is drawn, they get a $250 gift certificate to the Micallef brick and mortar of their choice. And we don't put stipulations on it, what you got to buy. We just want you to invest that money into a brick and mortar that's a business partner of ours.
So you can buy anything.
Yeah, we don't care. We just want you to spend it with that brick and mortar that you love. And of course, what typically happens is they buy a bunch of Micallefs and they buy a bunch of stuff that maybe they've never had, or sometimes they roll it up and they buy something that they've always wanted but never had the cash on hand to do. And that's cool. We want people to enjoy our products just like we enjoy other products. I've got here with me what is it? Brulee Blue for tomorrow morning.
Dunbarton, yes.
I've got it set and I'm ready for coffee beside the pool on a cool morning.
That's not the first time you've smoked that, is it?
No, of course not.
So.
But we love great cigars,
right.
And of course we advocate our cigar, but what's actually more important to us at a high level is we want more people to enjoy the smoking cigar premium experience.
Yes, that is the key right there.
It's incredibly important. And I've got to say, being an outsider coming into this industry, we're humbled by the people that we get to work with. The Placencias, AJ. There have been so many people who have helped us in different ways. When you're starting a new manufacturing company where you actually manufacture yourself, you don't have the tobacco inventory that you need. So, these guys treated us like princes in selling us tobacco out of their inventories to help us start. And those relationships are very deep and meaningful. Well, one way that we can help pay that back or pay it forward is, I don't know why, but the premium cigar industry has forgotten how to grow the customer base. The demographics they look more like you and I, and they're getting older every year. And
there is a whole demographic. I mean, I tell people all the time, especially shops that I go see, it's like, where is your female sister of the leaf cigar program? Where's your night? Who are they? Why are they not having a night for themselves to get an experience? And then sometimes what really irritates me is I'll sit there and observe sometimes. And I've been in shops where I see a woman come in to go buy a cigar, and I just watch what's going on and how they're like gravitating them to like some sweet thing. And they turn and they look, no, I like, Dom Pepin. And it's like, okay. And like one of the greatest things that I had an opportunity to be part of was I don't think they own it anymore, but the girls up in Lake County Cigars, all right, they did they have a thing called the Cigar Babes, right? And the Cigar Babes, they raise a lot of money for charity through cigars, and they go down to the Dominican, Nicaragua, and Honduras, and you bring down, clothes and other things. They support a lot of single moms, but they did a whole survey of women cigar smokers, and some of the findings, they gave me the whole thing to publish, right? And I read through this thing, it was amazing. One of the most important things they said was, one, they're just like men. They like cigars for the same reason we do. They like the flavor, they like the boldness, they like to experiment with different types of blends. They want to keep experiencing. And two, unlike men, they love accessories.
Yes.
And they'll have a lighter for a particular night.
Yes. And when you talk to retailers, they're also less price sensitive. Because when a lady likes it, whether it's a shoes or handbag or cigar, they're going to get what they want.
They're going to want it. They're going to buy it. They're going to buy it.
So in our business, we added a high octane woman executive named Amanda Mcalliff, and she was new to cigar smoking. And we published something called the Cigar Journal, where I need to send you one of those, which is so we have set up event night. We like doing it for women, but this is a book that if you've never smoked cigars, it's kind of everything you need in one place. And we've also included, from the perspective of a woman, being Amanda and the other ladies that we've met on this journey, Sisters of the Leaf, some things that are unique to them that they're going to find interesting too. But what we know for a fact is that the whiskey industry about 10 years ago developed a playbook for how to attract women to whiskey. And you go into any bar today, and you've got women drinking the best whiskeys there are. Some of them are spicier than I prefer. They drink what.
It's my daughter, man. She's a lawyer, and she loves brown liquor.
That's right. And so we have a great focus that we are prepared events so that if retailers want to host a new smoker event or a women's night where they can do it, that we have materials to help them get started. And the interesting thing about the studies that we found, the only thing that was a little different about women and men is that women, and I think it may be true for men new smokers, I don't know for sure, because it's been so long since I started. Viotola's size can be daunting if improperly introduced. And what I mean by that is the cigar that we created and launched on International Women's Day called the Medallion SE. It's a 5x40. And so you're talking about a smaller ring gauge cigar that it's easy to hold in the hand, because if you're not used to cutting and lighting and these things, doing it with a Churchill, it really feels awkward. And so we have the Medallion SE that we launched this year on International Women's Day. We did not get the success that we would have liked in retail shops, but that was on us because our materials weren't ready and baked. It was really the first year. Now that we have all of our materials, we also know that it's very important in a new smoker event to make sure that there's food, from chocolates to something, because they're not accustomed to the nicotine in their body necessarily. So there's things that you want to do to stage the event so that it's ideal for new smokers. And at Micallef Cigars, we are deeply committed to creating new smokers, because we think that that's a key to the success of the industry, not just from a commercial perspective, but when you think about the regulation, the more people you have who enjoy premium cigars, the more weight you have when you need to do advocacy. And we're reaching a point, if we're not careful, where the size of the market will shrink to where advocacy doesn't matter because there's just not enough of us. And so those are the two reasons that we feel creating new people who love the premium cigar experience is important. And that's an example of things we want to tailor with our retailers to help through that journey.
A little segue to that for you is your website. And if people haven't been to the Micallef website, I'm going to pull it up in a second. You got to go to this website, because this is just not your everyday cigar company website. You have on your website an amazing, probably the best that I've seen in a long time, collection of knowledge. I should have all this knowledge on my site, and I have some of it, but not all of it. So let me just pop this up for a second. So if you go into the Micallef website, you go to Cigars 101, you're going to, I mean, I love this. Don't smoke on an empty stomach, right? And a few other things you might want to know about, right? All of these are factual knowledge understood by those that have been smoking cigars for a long time that new smokers should understand.
Jimmie, this is the list that's printed in that Cigar Journal. We moved the content to our website so that people could do it. And I don't know if you can read between the lines, but there's also some points, like if you go up to the 13 points, that are really important for women because they think about how does it impact my hair, you know, some things like that. And for guys, we just kind of fly by it. There's something though that, I mean, I should show you. If you will take off Cigars 101 and type in SOTL, Sisters of the Leaf. So on your address bar at the top.
Okay.
And have SOTL. And this is part of how we're launching the Sisters of the Leaf discussion. So here's an entire set of information for women to understand. By the way, our factory is more women than men. Most people don't know the role that women play in the factories.
Huge role.
Yeah, it's huge role.
Without them, the industry falls apart.
That's right. Well, our cigars.
There's certain things they can, that because of their fingers alone, right? So,
their fingers and their eyes, they can see color better, much better than we can see color.
Correct.
So every beautiful box that you get, it's because a lady sorted the colors with you.
This is beautiful. Look, this is great. This is some great information, and this is what I love about your site. It's not just here are our cigars, and here's where you can find them. It's let me educate you about cigars, regardless of whether it's Micallef or anything else. And
in this particular
educated
page,
consumer, right?
Yeah, in that page,
going to buy more things.
We're highlighting all the women who work in all the retail shops that our cigars are carried, because we were blown away when we started kind of doing a little inventory of the women who own shops. You know, there's Patty Medina there in Florida. They've got a great shop.
Patty, man.
And, I mean,
man,
they're
that's
just a
Cigar Life.
Yeah, they're amazing
Cigar
people.
Lounge of the Year 2 years ago. I love that shop.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you've got Lutz up at Neptune and the business that she's building at Neptune. I mean, these they're very impressive. And
well, look what they did at the cathedral, which I have to get to soon, over in Tampa.
I don't know her because we're not in there, but I've just been watching it. I'm so excited about what they're doing. I mean, she's got to be one hell of a creative operator. What an amazing story.
And I was just up in Atlanta at the Cigar Mike Atlanta Cigar Experience a few weeks back. And I went into a shop there that's woman owned, and they're rocking it, right? I mean, because
absolutely.
They just draw, and and you know, let me tell you, if you have a woman-owned cigar shop, well, they're bringing their women friends in, and then the men gonna come in too.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's just having a good time, sitting back, smoking cigars, talking about what we talk about in lounges. Hopefully, not religion and politics.
but you're exactly right, and we were just surprised in the ownership, the management, and the tobacconists, the number of ladies that are out there making a difference. And they have all these great stories about, you know, because oftentimes they were pioneers in their own shop and they felt isolated. And they didn't realize this list when you look at it. And, you know, we want to keep connecting all those people together so that we can create new smokers for this industry we love.
Now, let me take a quick another break, and then we'll come back and we'll do some lightning round. Let's get to know Dan Thompson.
Sounds great.
And we'll just do a little what's new in news and reviews on Stogie Press this week. So this week, I got through a couple of cigar reviews this week. to start the ball rolling. So there was two of them I looked at. One is this right here. So those that don't know Wildfire Cigar Company, they are a brand new company. And Wildfire Cigar Company is owned by Jeremy McDonald. If that name sounds familiar, he's that red bearded guy that used to hang out with Robert Caldwell all the time. And he branched out on his own, and he has now created a new company called Wildfire Cigar Company. And this one here, he has two lines right now. This is the Revivalist. This is a full production cigar. And then he has another one called the Single, which is a limited production. So this one here is a Toro. I got some really nice notes on this. It's a $12 cigar. It's made at Joya de Nicaragua. It's got a Mexican Claro wrapper on it with Nicaraguan binder and Indonesian and Nicaraguan fillers in it. Got some nice dried fruits, some malt in this, which is something I don't always get. It had some nice natural sweetness. It had some peatiness to it and some raisin and spice. So this is a very flavorful cigar. It's, you know, taking on a nice journey. They do come in 3 different vitolas. There's a Corona Gorda, a Robusto, and a Toro. They range from $10 to $12, and they come in 20 count boxes. And you can just see just this, the burn on this was just very nice. I enjoyed the burn, really nice burn cone. Nice ash going through, a little bit of a wave there. So overall, had a little mild jagged, a mild off burn, definitely a box buy on this. This is it had a very clean, the other thing I liked about this, had a very clean finish. Not always you get that cigar. Sometimes there's a lingering note, and that's okay. Sometimes I like a lingering nut or a lingering spice, but this had a very clean finish as you went through it. It had a nice complexity, so definitely this one came in at a 93. The second review we did is a cigar I got when I was at the Atlanta Cigar Experience from a gentleman, Rob Robinson, who owns a company called R&R Cigars out of Miami. All right. And he handed me one of his barber poles. Now, this is a cigar that is, it's all Nicaraguan. It's a Nicaraguan Puro, but this is made in the USA. He didn't say what factory it was, but there's only so many factories in Miami that are making cigars. So we can let your imagination figure this one out. Okay. It's a spectacularly rolled cigar. I mean, beautiful spacing on the barber pole. It's very well constructed. There was a nice little bit of a gleam to it. Listen to it as you went through. Flavor profile on this one is an $11 cigar. Had some cinnamon, some coffee, some dark chocolate. It had some, in the very beginning, it had this meaty and peppery note to it, and then it transitioned into these other notes as it went through. Some nice natural sweetness in the background. I really enjoyed this cigar as it was going through it. It's all Nicaraguan. It's a Nicaraguan Habano, Nicaraguan Maduro wrapper with Nicaraguan fillers and binders. You come down the ash. Look at just the foot of this cigar. I love when you look at the foot of a cigar and you start to see the varying colors of the leaf. You already start thinking to yourself, wow, this is going to be a tasty morsel. And I love the red, you know, the reddish leaves that are in there. The burn on this, very, very nice burn. What you're seeing right here is that before I could take the next picture, the ash dropped right here. So that ash carried a long time and was solid all the way through, and then it picked right back up down to the nub. So excellent, excellent burn on it. Terrific flavor profile. Just had a little mild wave in the burn, nothing to worry about. Had that extreme ash, and this is another one that I would buy a box of these very easily. This is something I would put in a rotation. So I think he did a great job. Where to get them? I have to reach out to him. I'll update the article and say where are these to be found. I know you can get them in shops in Miami, but we'll find out where we can get more of them. As far as news goes, there was some news cycles this week. Fratello just announced that they're coming out with their Fratello Oral Jtt. This is an exclusive. They made 5,000 of these, and they are going to be available at Tobaccology, is where they're doing their rollout. And I believe their rollout was today, if I'm not mistaken. is in Ecuadorian Connecticut with an African Cameroon, with Dominican, Nicaragua, and Colombia fillers. So another launch from $10 cigar launch from Fratello. Our friends over at, I can never pronounce the name, Prospeak. Okay. They have a new cigar that they're called Who Shot Ya? So this is a recent announcement. This is a 5x52 Torpedo. They're making this with Room 101. So they're working in collaboration. You can get these over at Cigar Hustler for sure over in Florida here. They're $11.50 a stick. And you can look at the construction of this is a Latverian River Valley shade. So I'd have to find out more about what that is. Protocol announced a new Jane Doe. So if you find Jane out there, let them know if you've seen this cigar. So this is their next installment of their Jane Doe. This is their 3.0 version. You'll never know what it's made of. It's undisclosed. The only thing we know is it's made of Arizona, and it's got a 5x52 Vitola. So be on the lookout for Jane Doe. And Dunbarton announced their release of their Stillwell Star cigar line. I know that they were having issues in getting all of these in country, but Stillwell Star now will be available. That they're doing a rollout at Low Country Pipe and Cigar. So you can check that out. This is an interesting cigar. If you want to know where to get it, you can just actually scan this and you can sign up to get the information on it. I do know this is going to be a unique cigar because he's adding some pipe tobacco in the blend. And there's various different pipe tobaccos depending. So the basic breakdown is you got a wrapper of Ecuadorian Habano, and then you got a binder of San Andreas, and then you have various fillers. Each blend is different depending upon what they put into it. So these are the different pipe tobaccos that are in the filler. So typical Steve Soccer, you're either gonna love it or hate it. He's gonna tell you. So we'll see how that all plays out for him. I'd be interested in trying it anyway. Espinosa announced that they're switching their 2022 Luzona Palooza back to an in-person event. Last year they did a virtual for pandemic. They were originally going to do another virtual this year, but they've changed it now. So they'll be doing instead of doing this in November, they have moved it to March 3rd through 5th. This is an invite-only event for Espinosa fans. If you are an Espinosa fan, just keep posting Espinosa stuff on Luzona, and you'll probably get an invite to go to this. This is a terrific event. If you've ever been to one, it's a great time we have down there. And then that's it. That's the news and reviews. And of course, on Taking It to the Nub, you can always check out last week's show and the other shows on our Taking the Nub page. So last week was Arnaldo Serafin from Serafin to Cuba Cigars. Great little place. Check it out if you're ever over in Tarpon Springs. So that's the news and reviews on Stogie Press. Dan Thompson, director of Microsoft, 20 years. Got a chemistry degree. We know that. But a lot of people know you love dogs.
A lot of people who are around me very much know that I love dogs.
What was your first dog?
It was a Schnauzer named Samantha. I was the firstborn in my family, and Samantha was my first best friend.
And how old were you when Samantha came into your life?
She was there before I was there.
Oh. So that was the first heartbreak dog. Because
absolutely.
That's the toughest one, right?
That's the toughest one. But
you learn about the frailty of life with a dog at that age.
Absolutely. Now we've always been in the ranching business So we grew up being around the whole life cycle of animals. But when you lose somebody who's close to you, like Samantha, your family pet, it's a whole nother level of anguish.
Absolutely. And I've gone, I can't live without dogs. And I've had many, and many went over the Rainbow Bridge, and another one seems to come to me.
That's
and
right.
Each one has developed the personalities of the previous one. It was just me and how to handle. I'm handling all my dogs, but my latest little Cocker Spaniel, Ziggy, he's just got everything all rolled into one.
Oh, that's awesome.
He's a fun dog. They all turn out to be lounge dogs.
Absolutely.
So what do you have now as a dog? You got a Labrador or?
So we live in town in Fort Worth, and we've got two dachshunds that are kind of our house dogs. And as COVID was happening, our Great Pyrenees, who lived on the ranch with some other Pyrenees, she had a litter of 9 puppies and got bit by a copperhead the second day they were alive. So this is the same week that COVID started. So we went down to the ranch, picked up the mom, the 9 babies, and we raised 9 babies in town. My wife, it was the craziest damn thing you've ever seen, because while their mother was Pyrenees, they must have had multiple daddies, because we've got white dogs, black dogs, gold dogs. And we ended up keeping the mom and 3 of the babies here in town. And my backyard went from a beautiful, relaxing environment to the dogs have taken over.
And I know you also love your guns.
I do. I don't talk often about it, but absolutely.
What was the first time you shot a gun?
Oh gosh. I may have been 6 or 8 years old. I don't know. And all of that was over very tight supervision.
Of course.
But we grew up in the outdoors here.
Mm-hmm.
And so hunting, fishing, when I was 12, I got my first shotgun. We grew up with alcohol our entire lives around us. I was a bartender when I was probably 8 or 9 for my dad and his friends when they were playing cards. So alcohol, guns, tobacco, all of that's just been part of life from my earliest days, and the memories that are associated with all of it are amazing. But yes, today I enjoy shooting, less hunting, more just going to the range and enjoying that.
I went to my first shooting range 3 weeks ago, my whole life.
It was in Atlanta, right?
Yeah, first time I actually, I wouldn't say the first time I shot a gun. I was in high school and I was in the rifle club. I don't even know if they have those anymore. That would be crazy. But we had a rifle club, and I was in the rifle club in my freshman year. And then that was it. And then when my son was in scouts, we went summer camp. I would go up with him, and I was assistant scoutmaster, and we worked with the kids. And that particular year, we were doing the gun safety stuff, or we're doing skeet shooting and stuff. So I was shot a few shotguns at that time. So that was the extent of my experience. And I sat there and I was going 9 millimeters, 38s. For one of the guys there, he had a whole arsenal. So he said, I'll let you shoot some of mine. He had everything all the way down to the AKs. And I did okay. I hit the target. I hit a couple of, through the eye things, in the target thing. So I was like, okay.
I'll tell you what's funny. You grow up and you shoot guns your whole life. And I was never very accurate with a pistol. It was something that, frankly, we'd played with more than we'd taken seriously. And about 5 years ago, some friends who are ex-military actually took us to the range and really taught us how to shoot effectively. So I got some training, and it's unbelievable how much value is in that training and the confidence that you have. The firearm that I use today, and it's my carry firearm, is called a Sauer ultra compact. And you've seen the 1911, which is the Colt that was very famous in World War II. it's a compact version of that. That's a 45, and it's an absolutely amazing gun. And you pray that you never have to use it in any way other than at the range, but you want to have the confidence that if you're in a situation and there's nobody to help and you're depending on yourself, that you have a way to move forward.
Do you have any antique collected ones? Do you have any special ones that you have collected?
I do. Can I walk away from the camera for 1 second?
Sure.
Have it here in my
I'll just smoke this Experience. This. Hope you're all enjoying the show. Dan will be right back. He's going to show something fun.
Yeah. No, this is kind of exciting. I have in my home office collectibles from our family history, from great grandfathers, like a pocket watch, some Bibles, just different antiques from the family. And this is a pistol that was made for British cavalry officers in World War II.
Okay.
And it came to me through my grandfather, who served over in the Indochina theater. And the history of this gun is that a British officer was killed and it was taken by a Japanese officer.
Oh.
And my grandfather got this in battle from a Japanese officer. But it's a unique firearm because you can see this little latch at the bottom of it. That was to tie on to your saddle so that you couldn't drop it when you were in cavalry.
Interesting.
So it's an interesting one. I've never fired it. It's in great shape, but it's more of a personal family treasure than anything else.
All right, let's do a couple of other quick lightning rounds.
Sure.
What is your favorite music genre?
Two types, kind of interwoven. I like the blues, and they turn into like outlaw Western music, Waylon Jennings, things like that, Willie Nelson, and just old school rock and roll, so classic rock. And they kind of all go back to a blues origination. So that's the genre.
So you didn't see the Stones when they were in Dallas?
I've seen the Stones once, and it was excellent. I've seen them once in Jerry's World, where the Cowboys play, and it was terrible because of the acoustics. So those guys put on an incredible show, but you want to catch them in a venue that's good.
Yeah, I saw them 4 times, but the first time I saw them was my first ever rock and roll concert.
Oh,
At the age of 16 years old at Madison Square Garden.
Oh, how cool.
When they just came out with It's Only Rock and Roll. And oh my God. I mean, I fell in love with them. I loved them before then when I was like a young teenager, but that was it. I followed them many, many times, went to many concerts. But I'm also a big classic rock, like you say, but I'm also a big 80s new wave guy. I just I lived that era. That was my jam, right? I was like right out of college, 1981, right? Engineer, living in Boston. New wave was all over.
Oh, absolutely.
It defined the whole new dimension of my life. Every time I hear a song, I'm like back in some club in downtown Boston.
Was seeing the Rolling Stones, was that game changing as your first rock concert, getting to see them?
Let me tell you, as a person of technology, okay, 2 people, technology freaks, not only was it game changing, but if you actually go back and look at the videos of that, and you'll find those on YouTube, the band was completely wireless.
Really?
1981, 1970, 1975.
I didn't know that.
Wireless. Jagger was swinging on a rope with a microphone over the audience. All right. Keith Richards, the stage was in the center of the garden, and he was running around. Charlie Watts was in the middle, and he's running around with a guitar all the way around the stage like this. And everybody's like going, there's no wires. It's real. Right? But
yeah, what an amazing thing. I don't know how they did it.
And I'm this young guy that's going into the electronics field and being an engineer. And I was mesmerized. I was in the nosebleeds and I was still mesmerized going.
That's super cool.
So
Oh, wow.
Cool. Outside of Micallef, and I'm sure you smoke Micallef cigars 90% of your time, what are some of your classics? And when I say classics, I'm not necessarily talking about something new today. You go back in time, what were you smoking?
So I started smoking Hoya de Nicaragua. That was the brand that I really started smoking on. As I got to work and started making some money and could afford other things, Avo is one of my favorites. And I kind of grew and enjoyed the Davidoff portfolio. Was a huge fan up through the kind of chef release. They've done some things in the last 5 years that are less interesting to me, but I think that their quality and their flavor notes, and Avo was acquired by them. That was really in my wheelhouse. The brand that I think has captivated me in the last 5 years that I'm enjoying is Saka Cigars. I love his story and what they're doing. You know, there's Pete Johnson and Tatawahe and different people often produce something that I enjoy in their portfolio. But today, when I was at the cigar shop, I had a T110, the Habano that just came out. I enjoyed, what else did I have? I had a Cavalier, which I think has a really, it's kind of underplayed, but to me, it's really rich.
Yes.
I enjoy
Which
it.
one did you have?
I don't remember. It's one of their Maduros, kind of a Toro size. Sorry, I don't know the specifics. I just picked it up and smoked it and enjoyed it.
Did it have the gold band on the bottom that says USS?
I had that last week.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, you know, I try to smoke broadly. You know, there's certainly a lot of flavors that don't appeal or resonate with me that other people just love. And I think that there's just a certain humility you have to have, that we all have different tastes. And, you know, I can respect and understand the construction's fantastic, but those flavors just don't resonate with me the same way as others. You know, I had a Crux the other day that was given to me. It's the red one, maybe an Epicure. I think it was. You know, and it was a really nice smoke.
Yeah, no, they do a good job. They've been doing well.
Since they rebranded, they've really come a long ways. So, you know, those are the things. And there's always stuff like Opus X, which is always good, but it's not my favorite. There's just other people who make things like we've been discussing. Some of the Aladino, I think is really excellent.
That's some of those you can't go wrong with. I mean, I remember back in the early 90s, my go-to cigar by the box constantly was Hoyo de Monterrey Excaliburs. That was right where, and there wasn't a lot on the market. Don't get me wrong. They walked into a cigar shop. You know, a lot of the young guys today, they go into a cigar shop because they tons of stuff. You know, the humidors get bigger every time somebody opens a shop, it's a bigger humidor. I mean, back then, there wasn't that kind of a selection. I mean, there was minimal selection.
You know, during that time frame, my smoking taste have changed.
Mm-hmm.
During that time frame, my favorite two cigars were the Bahia Gold, which I don't know if you remember that cigar, and the St. Louis Ray.
St. Louis Ray, yeah.
And, you know, the St. Louis Ray is a little powder keg in terms of flavor. And that's what I was pursuing at that time. And then my taste changed and I became much more into complexities than just strength, as an example.
Yes. And that will happen. I mean, I remember I was doing a lot of business in Germany, and I would go over like 2 weeks to Nuremberg, come back for a week, go for 2 weeks, back for like over a year and a half. I was doing this, and I would hang out at the Casa del Habano shop in Nuremberg.
Sure.
All these Cuban cigars, right? And I remember coming back, went into one of my friend's shops here in Florida, at the time, and I used to really enjoy the Fuente Chateau, the double Chateau, right? I just
it's a great cigar.
It is.
It's not what I smoke today, but it's a great cigar.
I walked in the shop, I got one of those, I fired it up and started smoking, and I said, I looked at him, I said, what they do to this cigar? It's not the same. He goes, Jim, it's not, no, there's nothing wrong with that cigar. You've been smoking too many Cubans and your whole shifted on you. All right. You don't realize how much that plays into you, like you said. And as you grow and you learn, you'll always go back you go back, you can reappreciate it. Once you got that in your head, you go back and now you might actually discern some more notes out of it because your palate's a little more refined. So.
Yeah. And it maybe it's coincidence, maybe it's not, but my preference is a Nicaragua forward tobacco, but the home run for me is when there's complexities. This Medallion that I'm smoking also has Dominican filler in it. And so, you've got a San Andreas wrapper, you've got a Sumatra binder, the Nicaraguan Dominican filler. To me, that's a beautiful combination because I'm in search of those complexities. Mm-hmm. And that's what I love in a cigar. People who do the puros, they can make a great cigar, but it's just not for me because I like a wide palette of taste versus something that's just a bullet train.
Yeah. Like I get jazzed up when I see somebody announce a cigar and I look at the filler and it's like Nicaraguan, Colombian. This is like 4 or 5 different leaves in it. I'm like going, it should be very interesting cigar, right? So
yeah, absolutely. And the cigar that you're smoking there, I'm going to pull this stuff up. I don't live in our blends. I spend a lot more time on our future cigars. So I just want to make sure I get it right. But that cigar that you're smoking, it's a cousin to what I'm smoking. And you'll find in the Micallef line that we use a lot of Habano and Sumatras. And that's a San Andreas Sumatra wrapper with a Habano binder. And then the fillers are Nicaraguan, Dominican, and Panamanian. Mm-hmm. And that's what
gives you guys use a lot. You guys use a lot of Panamanian.
We do. We don't use it in a lot of volume. There's no wrappers or binders, but we use it as a component in our fillers to kick off some different notes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite fillers is Colombian. Mm-hmm. It's got that nuttiness to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just like the CAO Colombia is one of probably my favorite CAO cigar out there.
Absolutely. And we have our Reserva, which is really our celebration cigar. It's about $40 on the shelf retail. That has Peruvian in it also. Mm. That Peruvian is a note that if it's overdone, it can be overwhelming, but it's a really distinct taste. And, just add some surprise in there that you don't get in many cigars.
Now, are you hands-on at all with blending or just on the tasting?
So it's on the tasting.
Okay.
But I was on a panel, and of course we're in Texas, so I don't have other manufacturers to just drive over and talk to every day, right? So I don't know how unusual some of our practices may be. So I was on this panel and they were talking about blending, and everybody was talking about the magical moments that occur down in the Dominican or Nicaraguan when you're blending a cigar. They got to me and I said, well, Alan Davis is the president of our company in Nicaragua, and he handles it. I've never even visited the factory. I've spent my whole life on a plane visiting countries, and what he's doing in that factory is working really well. So there's no reason for me to go at this time. I have other challenges that I'm focused on. But the way that we do blending is different in that every year we get a shipment of blend cigars. And those go into a blend library that we keep in Texas. So I've got, 5-7 years worth now, because we're looking forward in years also, of blends of cigars. And some are blended, the same blend in different vitolas. Some are different blends in like a Toro or Corona to have comp taste. And it never dawned on me how weird that was. But from our perspective, we wanted to make decisions on what the product would taste like here on the consumer side. Right. And so we work as a team on a blend strategy as we continue to get better. There's some things in our portfolios where we've got to add a couple more Toros and some Robustos because we're missing that. When we came to market, we had some unusual shapes in the American market. They were very traditional Cuban shapes, to be honest. But we had to push all those to market to make sure that we had our predicates for the FDA work. And so we've been adding back in Toros, Robustos, and Gordos for the market here because those are the most popular shapes. But we've done some special projects. One project that I'm incredibly proud of as a team is we did a Medallion special edition. Now, Medallion is the name of the cigar. She's the matriarch of the Gomez Sanchez family. And so she built this blend for us. It's the San Andreas Habano with Sumatra binder, Dominican, and Nicaraguan filler. And that was something that she loved. And so she built this blend for us. And we went back to her and said, we want to do something a little different. I want that cigar in a 5x40 Vitola. And I know that means that you have to remove components of that cigar from the Toro to be able to achieve that ring gauge. As we were having that conversation, they also discussed changing how the wrapper finished its fermentation. And I said, you guys understand that this is a cigar that we're going to showcase for International Women's Day. It's going to be our special edition. It needs to be of the family of Medallion. And I really want, by going to the smaller ring gauge, to capture the essence of the cigar. There's some other things that are in bigger ring gauges that help with the combustion and things like that. And so that's the conversation that we had in developing that cigar. And, you have to have faith in your partners who are running your blending for you in your factory. I'm sure that there's other people who are much better at discerning every note and understanding the components. That's just not my leadership skill set. But there was a very strong point of view that we developed as a team and an organization, and they built a product for that we then wrapped in it's a piano navy blue finished box with gold lettering, because we wanted it really to have the prestige that we thought that she deserved. And that's the one that we launched on International Women's Day. So our approach is very team oriented. We draw off of our knowledge from the product library that we keep. And that's what guides us as we work on future blends. And we do, in the team, have diverse points of view in what we enjoy. There are cigars that we've launched in the last 2 years that are not my top of my palate, but the people that we serve, it was the top of their palates. So it's important to us. We don't want to build something that's just good for everyone. We really want to focus it so that somebody can love it. Everybody will recognize it's good construction, but somebody can love it. And if they don't love that blend, try a different blend so that you find something you love. Don't just smoke something average. Smoke something you love.
There you go. All right, last question, and then I'm going to give you the last word. This is my new everybody gets question in this segment.
Sure.
Happened again this past week. We found another asteroid that flew past the Earth. Didn't know about it till it was past us. There's going to come a point in time, maybe not in our lifetime, maybe not, who knows. Asteroids coming, big asteroid, it's going to obliterate the Earth. Okay? You're not going to survive.
Okay.
Would you do anything different in those 24 hours than you're doing now?
No. I think as you're a young guy, there's a lot more room to answer because you don't have enough life experience with you. Today, I love my wife. I understand where I fit in the universe from a religion choice perspective. It's okay. If that happens, nothing has to change because I'm doing what I need to do every day and what I enjoy.
All right. I'm going to give you the last word.
Well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate the conversation to speak with you. As we're growing as a company, I want to impress upon your friends who watch that we'd love for them to give us a try, that, we're building the products that we want people to love, but we're also want to be smart stewards of the premium cigar industry. We think a lot about the advocacy position. We think about brick and mortars, and we think about growing new smokers. And we're just going to keep doubling down on those three things in additional to our own products. And we're grateful for everybody that gives us any time to talk about it. And we certainly appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining the show. I want to thank my sponsors for sponsoring both this show and my sponsors on Stogie Press that keeps things rolling. And of course, all the viewers and followers. Without you, I'm just me. So thank you very much for always watching and supporting what we do. With that, we're going to call it. I'm just going to say goodbye to the world and stop the